Welcome to Prime Life. We call it Retirement 2.0. Leave each episode with tips and new ideas to help you navigate retirement in our new age. It's your time. Make it count.
This podcast is for educational purposes only. It is not intended as medical, investment, or financial advice. We do not sponsor or endorse any of the individuals, companies, products, or services featured on this podcast. Any statements or opinions expressed are of the individual who makes them. We hope you enjoy the episode.
Hi, and welcome to another episode of the Prime Live podcast. I'm Mary Crean, and I'm running solo today, which is just fine because I have not only one, but two guests, can you believe it, at the same time, and they're extraordinary humans, by the way. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce them, but then they're going to talk a little bit about themselves because this is not their first act. I'm here with Beth Boyle and Tom Porell, and they're the co-directors, right? That's unusual too. Co-directors of the House of Bread in Hartford, Connecticut. They're going to tell you a little bit about themselves. I'm not going to talk about House of Bread because I'm not going to do it as much justice as they would. But I do know this about them. They use the compassion, dignity, and respect. They have offered food, education, housing to tens thousands of men and women and children. So that in itself is extraordinary. Welcome to the Prime Live podcast, Beth and Tom. And ladies first. So Beth, tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got to House of Bread. And then we're going to kick it to Tom, and he's going to do the same.
Awesome. Thank you, Mary, so much for having us today. We appreciate this opportunity to talk with you. How did I land at House of Bread? So I actually came to House of Bread after working for about 19 years in education. I had worked at a school down in Greenwich, Connecticut, and then 16 years at Northwest Catholic in West Hartford. Quite honestly, I never had intended to work at a school for that long, but life sometimes unfolds in unexpected ways. I had originally moved back because my dad had been diagnosed with terminal brain cancer, and I'd gone to Northwest, so I went back and said, listen, I'm looking for employment, and they were really wonderful to me at a really difficult time in my life. And so I like to think I repaid the favor by being there for all those years and had wonderful, wonderful experiences. And interestingly, part of it, one of our board members here at House of Bread had reached out to me to tell me that they were looking to hire someone in the development role, in terms of fundraising. And that's what I was doing at Northwest at the time. And I'd gotten to that point in my career where I felt like I needed a change and wanted to try something new. And so the opportunity came up, I pursued it. And here I am almost 4 years later. In that time, I was the director of development when I was hired, and I have become the co-director with Tom. It's been almost 2 years that we've been co-directors, and excited to talk more about it, but want Tom to talk first about how he landed here.
Yeah.
Mine's a slightly different path than Beth. I worked as a graphic designer and in advertising and marketing for lots and lots of years. Throughout that, though, I would say I'm a chronic volunteer, and I've volunteered for the Hartford Marathon in Hartford, Connecticut for years. I helped run that. I've been clowns at parades that they've had in Hartford. I lead mission trips that go down to Appalachia every summer. So at some point, my career in the corporate world kind of ended, and I was looking for a job. And actually, the sisters had called me while I was on a mission trip and offered me a position at the House of Bread. I've known the sisters for about 44 years. The House of Bread has been around for 45 years. So I grew up with them. Did a lot of support for them throughout the years of throwing events, doing invitations for them, you name it. So they've been part of my family for a long time, and it just so happens that when they called me, I happen to have all the skill sets that they were looking for, and at the same time, they offered me something that I was looking for, which was basically get back to working more directly with people. At some point, you start climbing up the career ladder, and you lose touch with people. And part of my goal when I need to get a new job was to really work more directly with people and make an impact on them. So I've been here, and luckily I've been working with Beth for the past 4 years, I guess. The two as a co-director, and it's been a whirlwind.
So, not sure if I shared this with you when we did our prep call, but I came from the nonprofit world before I actually came to Nassau Financial Group, interestingly enough. And I wore the hat of actually both of you, was never co-director of an organization, but was always on the marketing fundraising side of the house. So I know how when you use the word or phrase whirlwind, I can understand a little bit about why that could be. And I take my hat off to both of you because I know that you do a lot of heavy lifting. I know your passion and your love of wanting to serve people propels you every day. And I'm so in awe of that and interested. So just want to throw that out there and thank you publicly, because the work that you're doing is so needed. And I would suspect that it could be growing. So let's have each of you again together or separately talk a little bit about what you're seeing at House of Bread these days, especially since you've been affiliated with the organization.
Tom, you want to talk about that?
Sure. We see a little bit of everything. We have a variety of programs, which we'll both talk about in a minute. But what we see are people that come to us with some sort of need. And the need is all dependent on the day. It could be something as simple as I need a meal. It could be I need housing. It could be I need help with learning English. And part of what we do is we talk to the people, we get to know them, and once they start to trust us, and that trust is just built through everyday communications, kind of like us today having this conversation. Because fundamentally, they're not going to have us help them if they don't trust us. So the first and foremost is what we do is just get to know them as a person. And once we know them, we're able to help them. And the need right now in Hartford and Connecticut and nationwide is tremendous, because there's not enough housing for people. There's not enough shelter for people. In America, we have the ability to feed everyone. We just can't seem to get our act together to do that. So we have a lot of people that are hungry. And that's not going down, it's going up. So when you're talking about a family that comes to us that, it's the basic needs that we're able to help them with, sometimes that, it's hard to fathom that, every day I wake up, I have a choice. I could take a shower, I can go to work, I could drive to work, I could take public transportation. Anything that is available to me, whereas a lot of people come to us, none of that is available to them for all sorts of reasons. So they come to us, and they come to us because we know we're going to help them.
I think also to add to what Tom said too, the foundation of a lot of the challenges that our guests and students are facing, much of it can be rooted in like the mental health crisis in our country. There are so many people who are struggling, who don't have access or don't even know how to handle their mental health challenges. And so all too often, I think we see firsthand that many people turn to substances, whether it's drugs or alcohol or both. And so to see how many people are struggling with addiction, and that crosses, I think that's where people don't realize it crosses all boundaries, race, socioeconomic status. We have many people from the suburbs, many young people. It's, we have older people. I mean, you name it, every age group is affected. This year alone, we've had several of our volunteers who've been here doing volunteer work run into people from their own life. And I think that experience is jarring for people, because you realize like we're all kind of one choice away from being in a different, having a different outcome in our life. So I think, that's just an important thing to highlight, that, and also combine with all of that everything's going up in cost. And so people are struggling. And if you have a, minimum wage job really does not allow you to live and be able to have housing and feed your family and have the utility, all those things. So we definitely are experiencing an increase in people coming to us in need of our help. And one more thing to add too, I think many of our guests don't have support. They don't have families or people, not that they don't have them, but they're not in their, like, actively in their life. So they come to us, and when Tom says we get to know them, like, in many ways, we might be the only one who gets to know them. You know, they come in and they're just in crisis, and they really just want, in many cases, just having someone to talk to makes a huge difference for our guests. So we try to do that.
Well, I like the points that each of you have made. You talked, Tam, you talked about the trust factor, which is huge, right? And we all know that. And I also love what you said, Beth, about one step away from perhaps, being in a situation like that, because I think sometimes it's easy for some of us, perhaps, that have had access to family and resources, money, education, again, resources, to say, oh, well, how could that have happened? Well, it's a little bit easier to happen than some of us think. And I also definitely echo and amplify what you said about mental health challenges, because I totally agree with you. And we do a lot of times talk about, well, we just finished May, Mental Health Awareness Month. We talk about mental health in our senior population in terms of, the isolation, again, not having anyone to rely on or turn to. Now, one of the things I do know about this region or this area is there are a lot of nonprofits that are serving individuals with similar needs that you folks do. Talk to us and tell us a little bit about how House of Bread is perhaps different. What's your secret sauce? What's your unique selling proposition? How do you fit in and perhaps even partner with other organizations so that you can continue to serve those in need and grow your organization?
And we'll get that answer after a brief word from our commercial sponsors.
Nassau is always working harder to be your carrier of choice. We offer insurance products that can help you meet your retirement goals, such as protecting your savings, securing lifetime income, or paying for healthcare costs. We're dedicated to providing best-in-class service and are keeping things simple, and we'll have your back. We have around 400,000 policyholders and contract holders and have been doing this for a long time, 170 years, but we remain humble enough to always try to improve. For more information, visit nfg.com. Nassau insurance products are issued by Nassau Life and Annuity Company of Hartford, Connecticut, Nassau Life Insurance Company, East Greenbush, New York, or Nassau Life Insurance Company of Kansas, Overland Park, Kansas. Subsidiaries of Nassau Financial Group. Products are not available in all areas. Policyholder counts are for all Nassau companies as of September 30th, 2022, and are subject to change.
Well, if we gave away all our secrets, then we wouldn't be here. But kidding aside, our secret sauce, which is a great way to put that, since our foundation is around helping people with food insecurity. But it really just comes down to this: is that when somebody comes in the door, we're going to treat them like family. We don't have them fill out a whole bunch of paperwork. In most cases, we really want them to just be comfortable coming in the door. Mm-hmm. And we're going to have fun with them, because even if somebody is having their worst day, they're still human. They can still laugh. They can still cry like everybody else.
I love that.
So we treat them like that. We treat them like family. And so part of it is that they pass that word around that, come to the House of Bread, and you'd be surprised, like throughout Connecticut, the organizations that in hours away have recommended come to the House of Bread, because ultimately they know that we care about what we do. And it's not just Beth and I by any means. This is like our staff is incredible. But what they really do, though, is just they focus on the individual person. Nobody here's a number. Nobody here is taken for granted. We look at that individual person to see how we can help them. And that's not to say all these other organizations around us don't do that, because our other strength is that we also realize that we can't do this alone. So we partner with these other organizations. We're on phone calls every morning with about 15 other organizations to see how we can all collectively help somebody get shelter. We have different healthcare companies come in here because we know we're not going to be the experts in everything. What we also realize, though, is that if somebody does come to us for any sort of help, our best bet is to be able to help them as best as we can here. So rather than send them to some other place for an appointment, we'll bring that group in here so they can meet with that person here, because we know that, for them to just get to an appointment sometimes is a monumental event. So if we can bring those groups in here to support them, it works out much better for everyone.
Before Beth chimes in, I noticed you refer to those that seek help at House of Bread. You call them guests. And I love that. I love that. That's, I think, the first time I've heard that.
Yeah,
well, it shows the if you think of it that way, it's different, and the
whole
at
piece
times
of like dignity. Like we
yeah.
want to treat everyone with dignity. So there's not, we're not. It's funny, I remember as I was getting to like know many of our guests here, Tom will be the first to tell you that I walk around the tables a lot and talk a lot, which is not surprising once you get to know me. And so, but one of the guests once said to me, as I was standing next to the table talking to him, he said, "Why don't you ever sit down with us?" And I kind of was like, "What?" And he's like, like you spend all this time, like, I think, and I guess the point being that like, we feel more like on the same level with you if you sit rather than stay. And I thought, that's like a whole, again, like the respect and dignity. I never would ever have meant to communicate that if that's what I was communicating by standing. It was more that I just wanted to talk to everyone. So I was trying to get around, but it is the idea of like we just want to connect with you, And so again, it's the whole idea of respect and dignity. And that's what we really, the sisters definitely, when they founded this, that's what they were, obviously trying to drive home is spirit of support. And so, and treating everyone like we would want to be treated, So, sorry to cut you off, Tom. I told you I would, but dignity,
I'm a witness
dignity,
to that. Yes, exactly.
Dignity and respect. I think that's why, that's why we look at them as guests. And then ultimately we do look at them as family. So,
I love that. Also, what I really like too is you heard that feedback and you integrated that feedback into your practices. Because sometimes, right, as humans, we don't always know everything. We don't know how we're being perceived. And most of the time, our intentions are really good intentions. So I think that's really cool that you took the time to listen. And I do believe that when you want to get people to know, like, and trust you, you do have to have conversations with them. And Tom was saying earlier, you laugh and you get to know them like you would your own family members, and you want them to open up so that you can help them effectively. As you mentioned, you are not only feeding people, but helping them with shelter and different aspects. So let's talk a little bit about why each of you believe that nonprofits such as House of Bread is so important to exist, especially I think now.
But it's funny. I think we have all this technology available to us, and with AI and Google, like you can find out anything you want to on the internet, but you have to have a certain level of skill to be able to navigate those things, and so and just a knowledge base. And so, and I mean, even when I think about our students in our education program, we have our education program in the South End of Hartford, where we're teaching English to immigrants and refugees. And the very vast majority of them, obviously they're coming to learn English. So they're, it's a second language for them. And they're trying to navigate living in a new place, coming from all over the world. We literally have people from all over the world. And that's challenging in and of itself. Never mind also trying to, learn the language and navigate that.
So going back to our students for a second, they come to us, and here again, they could go to another facility that could teach them English, and they could take an assessment test and all that stuff and all that.
Right.
The programs like the House of Bread, nonprofits, have the ability to be more flexible to the individuals. So when we talk to the students that come in, we can adapt our program specifically to their needs. So we had a gentleman a while back that came to us, and he wanted to be able to make money to support his family. Makes sense. Everybody wants to do that. So he got a job at a restaurant. So, part of the goal there is then to teach them the language of the restaurant.
Right.
It's not to teach them like everything about the English language. I'm still trying to learn that myself. But in his case, he knew that in order for him to basically have a life where he was financially independent, could take care of his family, he had to have a job. Part of his requirement was, in order to have that job, he had to learn English. So because we're a nonprofit, we can be flexible and adapt to the individual needs. Whereas, you get some corporate programs or some government programs, and you have to fulfill certain categories and certain information that as a nonprofit, we have a little bit more flexibility and we're more nimble.
That was my point, Tom. Thank you for helping me recover that. I feel like in this world, like it's the personal connection. Like the bottom line is that ultimately you can have all this technology available to you, but I really think that the people who are coming to us, they need people to help them navigate it. I think the reality is most of us need people to help us navigate it. And so like our students in our education program, English, that's like a whole nother layer of challenge that they're coming with, but it's that they can come in and feel like they can have a trustworthy person who's going to guide them. Because imagine like you don't know who's who and you're trying to figure out, where to go and you're alone. And so I think, at our education program, we have tutors that work one-on-one. They really get to know the students. And so from the beginning of a school year to the end of the school year, to see like how much our tutors then know about their student, because it's so much more than just learning, verb tenses or vocabulary. It's really like, helping them with whatever challenge they might be facing. And likewise over here with guests at our day shelter, at our soup kitchen, they could look up what, where they could get mental health care, or, they need a cell phone or whatever, but that's challenging for them to actually like follow through on all the steps to do it. So it's that they need this support. And that's where I think, we are different, obviously. I think a nonprofit in general is different because there is that layer of care, that we're trying to offer for whatever we're trying to do. That I think is the difference. I'm sorry, I lost that. Ultimately, it's great that we have all this stuff, but really we need each other. And so that's where we operate from. We're really trying to say, we're here to help you. Like we need you to tell us what you need, but we'll help you get to that place. And ultimately, like that is our goal, is that we help them to do these things so that they can get to a place of self-sustainability. Right. But knowing that takes support along the way to get to that place.
Yeah, it does. I think it's like you don't know what you don't know. And the other piece is show me, don't tell me. And sometimes you need someone to show you instead of tell you. And I do agree, like with other types of organization structures that, yes, are helpful. I'm not saying they're not. But if you don't check all the boxes a certain way, then your paperwork can be spit out. And then it's like no help, no assistance, or whatever that is. And I think that's a little bit of what I've heard. But for our audience that do not know House of Bread at a very high level, could you talk a little bit about what you offer, like the types of programs at a very high level, so our listeners get an idea and they can actually visualize your holistic approach that I think I'm hearing from both of you?
Yeah. So So the House of Bread was founded back in 1980 by the two sisters, Sister Maureen and Sister Teresa, and it was originally founded as a soup kitchen. So, offering a place and a space for our guests to come in and to receive food and support. And in the last 45 years, we've evolved to have many other programs and services, but we still do have the soup kitchen. Monday through Friday, we serve breakfast and lunch at our soup kitchen. We serve dinner on Thursday nights, lunch on Saturdays, and breakfast on Sundays. So 7 days a week, we have our service, our meals here. We have our food distribution program. So we're picking up food every day from Trader Joe's. Give a shout out to Trader Joe's; they're amazing. And so we bring that food back here, and we take what we need, and then each day we distribute that to a community partner who might need it. So every day there's a scheduled delivery destination for that food. We have our Kids Cafe program, so we're feeding another 200 local children who are in independent schools in Hartford, as well as other community programs, and we're providing meals to them as well on each school day. We have our day shelter here, so that is where our guests can come and basically rest before breakfast and then between breakfast and lunch. We're one of the few places in Hartford that people can take a shower during the day. So we have that service here, as well as bathrooms, obviously. We bring in a lot of community partners to our day shelter so that we can, rather than sending our guests, because we find that's not always as successful to send them out, we try to bring everything here. So like Hartford Healthcare comes in here twice a month. We bring in, housing, you name it, housing, mental health services, you name it, cell phones, all that stuff. We bring that here to the day shelter. And then here we also have our thrift store. So people in the community can come here and shop at our thrift store. And we like to think we're also helping the community because people can donate, household items and such that are in good shape. So the thrift store is great. And then, like I mentioned, the education program is in the south end of Hartford. That's where we are teaching English, also things like citizenship to immigrants and refugees. It's mostly small classes, but mostly one-on-one tutoring. So volunteer tutors with individual students, and really trying to work to help each individual student, obviously to learn English, but it's a neat program because many of our students have like very specific needs, whether it be related to jobs or, they're taking a citizenship exam, or they need help with navigating something with their child's school, their medical office, whatever it might be. Mm-hmm. So it's a really neat program. And then I think Tom's going to talk about the housing programs.
And then lastly, to round out kind of the food, education, we have housing. So we have two different areas of housing. One is affordable housing. And when we say affordable housing, our housing in Hartford, Connecticut is probably one of the lowest rents in the city. We have about 60 people live there. They've lived there for some of them for years because it's affordable. And it's a beautiful building. In addition to that, we have transitional housing for men and for women. At each program, up to 8 people can live at these communities. And what they are is they're support communities for people that are going through substance abuse issues. They go to their treatment during the day. They have jobs. At night, they live in our communities of support, the 2 different houses, one for men and one for women. And while they're there, they all support each other. And everyone who's there is in treatment and is having issues. So they all understand what it's like to have an issue, including the house managers we have who have been through these programs years ago. So it's one of our many supportive communities that we've built throughout the House of Bread.
So as we're drawing near to the end of our conversation, before we go to our last question, which I would love each of you to answer, really succinctly, what keeps you up at night? Tom, we'll go with you, and then we'll go to Beth.
The cats in my house, they're very annoying. Regarding the House of Bread, what keeps me up at night is probably just the fact that we have a lot of people that we help. There's about 1,000 people throughout each day. We help about 1,000 people throughout all of our programs. So every day you come to work and you may have a hit list of things that you want to do. What keeps me up is that, like, knowing that, like, yeah, I'm not going to get to any of that because something's going to happen. So you kind of plan in your head mentally. And I text Beth at like 11 o'clock at night. She texts me back. So so we share this kind of mentality. But it's not a bad thing that keeps me up at night. I look at it as more like it engages me. It keeps me active. It keeps me young.
I love that, especially for Prime Life. We love hearing that. And Beth, how about you?
Oh, I would say two things. I mean, obviously, with my fundraising hat always on, I'm always worried about funding, making sure that we're able to sustain funding. But along with that, just like, making sure that we are, doing as much as we can with what we have for our guests. Like, the need is so, so great. And so, we obviously want to be really intentional about what we're doing and how we're doing it. And so it's just, it's a constant like reflection. And Tom and I talk so much about those things. And that you mentioned at the beginning, co-director model is very unusual in a nonprofit.
Absolutely.
But I have to say, like, I think it makes us more effective though, because we both have different strengths and skills. And I think we are able to challenge each other and support each other. And it's, in a job that's like all encompassing in so many ways, it's a good thing. But I would say funding and just, making sure that we're being the best that we can be for ultimately so that we can help as many people as possible.
I love that. Our last question is pretty simple and it's very individualized. And we'll go back to Beth. Why you have a very interesting background. You're a smart woman. You could do anything at all. And yet every day you wake up to come to work at House of Bread. What's your why?
Oh, it's funny. We talked about that at the beginning. I just, I really, it's like this, as I mentioned at the beginning, like this opportunity came up. I wasn't really looking for a job at the time, to be honest with you. And I decided to follow, the opportunity just to see, and then obviously ultimately landed, decided to take the job. And it's funny, I went into it kind of thinking, well, I didn't really look for this job. If it doesn't work out, I'd like to think maybe I could find something else, and so I came in and I remember like the end of the first month, several of my colleagues said, you came in here like Little Miss Sunshine, and we thought there is no way she's making it, and I have to say, like, I feel really called to this job. I feel very, very lucky to work here. It has changed my perspective on pretty much everything. I think when you see people who are struggling with basic needs, where they're going to get their next meal, where they're going to sleep tonight, it just makes you look at life differently. And I mean it in like and I really think when you see people who might be experiencing literally their like rock bottom, you realize like, many of us have the ability to help someone else. And so I feel like if I could even help one person every day here, that's, why wouldn't I want to do that? There's nothing more important, I think, than just offering support to someone else. And it's funny, I say this a lot when I talk to people, this whole idea of service, right? Like, I feel like I can serve in that way. Tom talked about how he likes to do community service, et cetera. I think the secret of service, if I'm being totally honest, is that you get so much more. And I think any of our volunteers would agree with this. You get so much more out of it than what you give. And you obviously are doing it because you want to give. But like the feeling that there's no amount of money that can give you that feeling of really connecting and helping someone else. And I think in this world that we live in now, people feel like so much is out of control and that they have no ability to make a difference. And like the truth is, if every one of us could just try to make a difference for someone else every day, like how much positive there would be in the world. So like, do what you have control over. Give of yourself in some way if you can, and And so that's my why here. I just feel like if I can use any of my skills to help someone else, to me, it's like, that's like such an easy, especially as a mom and having children, you want to show your kids like what's important, and it's important that we help other people. Like that's just, to me, if we could all even have like a little bit of that attitude, like the world would be a very different place than it is right now.
I agree with that. Tom, how about you? What's your why?
Well, if I wasn't working here, I would be volunteering here. So they're paying me to do this. I mean, this is the best thing going.
I love
your
purpose.
I mean, the reality is that it plays off all my strengths. This isn't the type of place where if you're anxious, if you can't think quickly, if you get riled real easily, this is not the place for you. For whatever reason, I consider myself a pretty calm person. I don't overreact, and you have to have those.
He really is, actually. I'm gonna agree with him on that. He is very, very calm.
I don't let the things that probably would rile a lot of people here. They don't really rile me here. Granted, we see a lot of things that most people probably will never see in their lifetime, but it's the why is because of all that. I can come here and genuinely feel like I help somebody, and help could be, I know that, I changed my calendar on Wednesday because there's going to be a 4-year-old boy here that I'm going to hang out with on Wednesday. So the why is the ability to adapt to everything that happens here. It's a unique place. It's a neat place, but it's it just feeds, like Beth said, it kind of feeds your soul just to come here and to, one day you're helping a 4-year-old, the next day you're helping somebody who, the interesting thing is that, a lot of people think that we're helping the people that come here. Well, we are. It doesn't mean that it's the guests, though. Last Friday, I sat in a van with a volunteer that was getting overheated. His medication had changed. I sat in the van with him for like a half hour and just talked to him. So you don't know wherever that help is coming from. But for me, it's just that ability to be able to help somebody is pretty cool.
I love that. So if individuals want to get a hold of you, perhaps to learn more about what you're doing, or maybe to donate, who knows? What's the best way? And we'll put everything else in the show notes.
Yeah, making a gift is easy. www.hobread.org. If anyone wants to reach out to us to talk about volunteer opportunities or anything else, you can email us at info@hobread.org.
Well, it's been very inspirational to spend time with both of you, Beth Boyle and Tom Porell. It's really been a great conversation, and the work you're doing is amazing. So keep doing it, and perhaps we can encourage others to do the same. We do hear on this podcast very often that those that have purpose every day live longer and live better, and I do believe that. So again, thank you for all of your good service in the community. And to our listeners, share the podcast with your friends, your colleagues, and we look forward to sharing another episode of the Prime Life podcast. Thank you so much, and everyone have a great day. And thank you again, Beth and Tom.
Thank you, Mary.
Thank you, Mary.
Remember to subscribe to the Prime Life podcast anywhere you find podcasts. You can find all of our episodes, contact information, and more on our website, primelifepodcast.com. Stay connected with us. Follow us on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok.